We just witnessed one of the best weekends of divisional football in playoff history. Great games all across the board, competitive showings which came down to the wire. And we're going to talk about all of them. First and foremost though, the game we were all looking forward to, the game which did not disappoint, and the game which solidified a lot of narratives. The Buffalo Bills lost by 3 points to the Kansas City Chiefs. Once again, we saw Mahomes and Allen square off in the playoffs. Once again, they both played great with a few small mistakes, but still did enough for their team to win. And once again, Josh Allen was let down by his squad. And there really was not a drastic disparity in the quality of play for either this game or the last time these two teams met in the playoffs between Allen and Mahomes. They both played well in different ways. Josh Allen, once again, was his team's entire offense. Most rushing yards, threw for a bunch of passing yards, did things on the ground and through the air, which no other quarterback can do in the ways he did it. Still not enough. Had a few moments, shaky throws, errant passes late, questionable. Could have done better. You can say that for pretty much every quarterback in every game. But at the end of the day, he put his team in the position to tie up with less than 2 minutes left. Now, I am fairly confident Patrick Mahomes would have been able to work his team back within field goal range. The Bills' defense historically does not do well in those settings when facing Patrick Mahomes late in games. But still, we never get to find out because Tyler Bass missed a field goal. And I could blame him. I could say it's all Tyler Bass's fault, but really I am blaming somebody else. Someone who is much more to blame. Someone who has made themselves a distraction instead of part of a winning culture. And that person is Stefon Diggs. Complained about targets. Complained about his quarterback not getting things done for him. Complained all through the past 2 off seasons. Dramatically stood out and watched the confetti fall on the Kansas City Chiefs after they beat him the first time. Now look, dropping passes. 2 easy passes dropped, and of course, that pass which would have resulted in a touchdown, or at the very least gotten the Bills right within the red zone, bounced right off his hands. Finally got open for once, could not capitalize on it. Was not putting in a ton of effort. Was not doing the things he needed to do to let his team win. Wasn't run blocking very well. Did not open up any lanes for James Cook on the outside. And people are going to criticize Josh Allen. Oh, why didn't you throw the crosser instead of chucking up a deep ball to the end zone as you were getting hit? He didn't throw the cross to Stefon Diggs because Stefon Diggs probably will have dropped it. I am very upset with Stefon. He complained his way out of Minnesota. He's complaining his way out of Buffalo. And that's fine. If you're a great receiver, you can do that. But if you are going to shrink when the lights get bright, I don't want to hear it. That being said, other issues across the board, but that's my 2 cents.
If you truly believe Josh Allen's team let him down, and there are moments you can point to certainly, there's the missed kick, there's Josh Allen dropping the pass, there's his coach for some reason going for it on 4th down in their own territory. Not necessarily the best decision.
Not going for it on 4th down, mind you, but going for it on 4th down in his own territory with a fake punt to a man whose heart had been stopped within the last calendar year. You need to add some more context to that to quantify how terrible of a decision that was.
So you can point to those certainly, but then on the Chiefs side of things, could you imagine the scenes if after the game Chiefs fans were blaming the fact they lost because McCole Hardman fumbled through the back of the end zone? Shit happens during a football game, and to use that all to defend Josh Allen is just lazy, because at the end of the day, the Bills did get the ball back after that failed 4th down conversion. They drove down the field. Josh Allen had an opportunity to avenge the whole 13-second thing, maybe leave less than 13 seconds on the clock, or 13 seconds again, score a touchdown, or kick a field goal and go into overtime. And that at that point, with the rule change because they whined and cried about it, things might have gone differently. On the last 2 plays there, it's 2nd and 9. I think they're on about like the 25, I want to say, somewhere around that range.
Further back. They're further back than
further back than that even. 2nd and 9, they have an opportunity. Stefon Diggs coming across the middle of the field. He's wide open. You could say any receiver in the NFL is catching that pass. It's not a far pass to catch. It would have been, 11 yards through the air if you take into account how far back Josh Allen was behind the line of scrimmage. Decides not to do that. When you then look at the throw he did take, he took a deep shot down the middle of the field to Khalil Shakir. You look at his footwork in the pocket. Yes, he did get hit by the left tackle because Chris Jones drove him back, but he could have stepped up in the pocket, had a completely clean pocket, doesn't do that, decides to throw off his back foot while he's getting hit, completely underthrows the ball. A check down would have got the 1st down, would have kept the clock running, would have forced the Chiefs to use a timeout, Didn't do that. Then on the next play, on the left side of the field, they have two receivers open early short. A check down, would they have gotten tackled before the first down? Probably, but it forces the Chiefs to use a timeout and at least would give your kicker just a little bit more room to maybe make him feel a little bit more confident. So those last two plays, Josh Allen has an opportunity to clutch up, put his team in a better position, and he did none of those things. The clock stopped. If they did kick the field goal and tie the game, you left Patrick Mahomes all the time in the world in 2 timeouts. He probably would have scored and won the game. So in that respect, I think Josh Allen did fail. Did he have a very good game? Yes. Is he a fraud? No. Will he ever beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs? Also probably no. But I think the people that are saying, oh, his team let him down, they're completely disregarding the fact he had a chance to win the game and put the Bills in an incredible position there at the end.
So let me get this straight. He drives down into field goal range, puts his team in position to tie the game, but because he didn't go out and score a touchdown, he let his team down.
No, that's not what I said.
I would not have thrown that check down to Stephon Diggs either. You do not get the opportunity to cause drop number 4. Mecole Hardman did not get the chance to ruin the game yet again after he fumbled that ball out of the back of the end zone. That was due to a timing thing more so than anything. But I can guarantee you, if Patrick Mahomes got the ball back down, Mecole Hardman wouldn't have A, either not seen the field, or B, would have never touched the ball. If you have consistently been failing your team all day, I'm sorry, you don't get the easy balls thrown to you anymore. You don't get any balls thrown to you. Throwing that ball to Stephon Diggs would have happened if Diggs had made any of those 3 previous catches.
Can I just clarify? I did not say that the touchdown or whatever. It was a poor decision in general to throw the ball deep, because if he throws it short, you get the first down, you keep the clock running. It just so happens Stephon Diggs was the one wide open there. You don't want to score that quickly, because when you score that quickly, you give Patrick Mahomes the ball back with 2 timeouts and 1:55 left on the clock. So it was a poor decision any way you slice it to take a deep shot there, even if they score the touchdown.
It's a bad decision to score, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
I'd rather give Patrick Mahomes the ball with 7 seconds left on the clock, tie game, and go to overtime than give him the ball with 1:55 left on the clock, 2 timeouts, and a touchdown wins him the game.
I'd rather get the touchdown, or at the very least get myself closer, rather than living in the land of hypotheticals and having to say, oh, well, maybe we could score later, or maybe we could put our kicker in a position to succeed. Come to think of it, I don't think Tyler Bass will have succeeded for many other spots. You can move that kick 10, I'd say 5-6 yards closer. He still misses that based off how far right he got it.
5-6 yards closer, he's not necessarily in the same mental place.
He is still mentally shattered. Tyler Bass was quaking in his boots over there. Some people got it, some people don't, and the Bills just happened to pay $20 million over 4 years to a kicker who doesn't have it. They probably won that contract back.
On another note,
throw up the ninja tweet right here.
On another note, when it comes to what I said before the game, I didn't understand why people were doubting the Chiefs so much and why the Bills were so heavily favored.
3-point favorites, by the way.
Yeah, but they were still favored. And I think it was shown in this game that the Chiefs roster is still very good, and the people that, felt that they weren't good this season really just comes from a place from being tired of how good Patrick Mahomes is and how well run the Chiefs organization is. Because Isaiah Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, basically a wash between the Chiefs run game and the Bills run game with James Cook, Latavius Murray, and the other guy had a really, what's his name?
You gotta work for this one yourself, I'm afraid.
You don't know either, which is why you're probably not saying it. Travis Kelce, better than what the other Bills tight ends had to offer in that game.
To be fair, Dawson Knox got knocked out pretty early in that one. That will limit your production.
But I did say he was going to show up in the playoffs. He got a week of rest. Rashee Rice, I said he's the better number 1 receiver over his last 3 games matched Stephon Diggs' last 7, and he proved to be the best receiver on the field last night between both teams. So the fact anyone really thought the Bills might have had the advantage when it comes to certain positional groups, I always thought was ridiculous. The only advantage they had was the fact it was in Buffalo, but Buffalo Bills fans did such a good job of cleaning up the stadium, it was like they were playing in perfect weather. So I don't get why anyone doubted the Chiefs in the first place.
That Rashee Rice take is really stupid, by the way, because he did not only have the 5th most receiving yards in the game, there was another wide receiver on his own team by the name of MVS who had more receiving yards than him. He was not the best wide receiver in the game. He was not the best pass catcher in the game. It wasn't close. Now, if you want to bash Diggs, I'm fine with bashing Diggs. As someone who likes Buffalo, he should be off that team.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned MVS because you mocked me before the game. Oh, I said there wasn't much of a difference between the Chiefs number 2 and number 3 receivers between the Bills' number 2 and number 3 receivers.
Well,
I know Gabe Davis wasn't even on the
field. That's the issue.
That is the case, but MVS, he has the talent and he has the ability. It's just in several key moments throughout his career, he's dropped the ball. In this game, he caught the ball. So I said that he has the same talent and ability as the Bills' number 2 and 3 receivers, and he proved that in this game. So you brought up another way I was right.
If we're going to go big moment to big moment on Bills receivers versus Chiefs receivers, I'd appreciate if the big moment number 2 wide receiver on the Bills, who is the real playoff performer, the real playoff riser on that Bills offense, if he was able to play, I think that goes a little bit differently. But hey, we don't account for injuries here on Thick Medic, except for when we do. All I'm going to say about the Chiefs, and then you can say your piece, and then we can move on to another game, is this. Josh Allen is never going to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs unless he clearly outperforms him or Mahomes makes a mistake. And Mahomes is at a point in his career where he no longer makes those stupid mistakes. Maybe if you got him 2-3 years earlier in this game, Chiefs win. But Mahomes is too careful with the ball, and he is too good, where Josh Allen, no matter how well he plays, will very rarely have the opportunity to go out there and show that he is better than them. Unless he is clearly night and day, it's not some, debatably Mahomes outplayed him. He has to be head and shoulders better with the team he has, with the coach he has, if you want to beat Mahomes. Really, the only way Suicide Bomb Sean is capable of stopping that Chiefs offense is if he decides to take a one-way plane ride to Arrowhead Stadium at some point in the playoffs, because other than that, McVay's defenses will never stop Patrick Mahomes.
Well, I disagree, and I don't know if this will ever happen, but the only way I see Josh Allen ever beating Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs is if they get a roster that is on the same quality of the Ravens. And I don't know if that'll happen because they're $45 million over the cap next season. Von Miller, who's on their books, and other expensive contracts with players who haven't been producing maybe to what the Bills kind of expected and would like. I don't know if they'll ever be able to build that, but Josh Allen needs a roster where that's clearly better than the Chiefs roster if he wants to beat Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes is better than Josh Allen, and if they have similar rosters and similar talent groups, it's shown time and time again, if that's the case, if those are the pieces around each player, Patrick Mahomes is going to come out on top. So he needs to have the better team if he ever wants to beat him.
Except the last 2 times he played him in the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes' teammates stepped up, and Josh Allen's most certainly did not. But hey, we can keep talking about Tyler Bass and sacrificing him to the Buffalo Bills stadium hole all we want. Let's instead talk about another quarterback battle we all enjoyed watching, or at least we enjoyed watching the first half of. Because C.J. Stroud went head-to-head with the Baltimore Ravens and had them in a very competitive game up until the point where he did. 10-10 first half, Texans had a ton of procedural issues, could not get the snap count right, false starts all over the place, non-existent passing attack. Really, the only way they were able to generate offense was on special teams. On the Ravens sideline, they were not doing much against that Texans defense. Lamar was not hitting his throws. The running game was not there. Holes were not opening. They go into the half. The older team with more experience, who was coming off a bye, wakes up. The younger team shrinks in the moment, not quite able to handle that loud Baltimore crowd, does not make the adjustments they need to, and they get smoked. 34-10 is not indicative of how close that game actually was. It was half a good football game. But at the end of the day, the older, more experienced team won. Lamar Jackson played very well in the second half. Some people are going to point to the fact he only had 150 yards passing. I'm going to say grow up to that. 4 touchdowns, super efficient game
100 yards rushing.
Tristan, I'm defending Lamar Jackson here. Let me defend him. I've got my own ways of defending him. The 150-yard people are deliberately ignoring the rushing yards. They are ignoring the context like we so often do. But Baltimore looks like the best team in the AFC. Certainly the best defense in the AFC. I don't know if the Chiefs are able to contain C.J. Stroud to the extent that Ravens unit did. Without Marlon Humphrey, by the way.
Well, it was never really a game for the Texans. You said it was close in the first half, but it really wasn't. They got a lucky punt return where the only man who ever had a chance was the punter at tackling him. And we often see it with the Ravens offense where they have a tendency, no matter who they're playing against, to kind of sputter, and then all of a sudden they find themselves in a close game. So that could kind of rear its head next week when they're playing a better team in the Kansas City Chiefs. Potentially could give them issues, but it gave me a lot of confidence how they came out of halftime and showed us that they are the team who we think they are. They are the best team in the NFL with an offense that's capable of putting points up on the board quickly, and the defense also gives you confidence because they only gave up 3 offensive points to the Texans. And on the Texans side of things, if you're a fan, the part that's really disappointing is all the pre-snap penalties, the false starts, the offsides. The fact that that happens so much is disappointing from maybe a coaching perspective. I would probably chalk that all up to the environment and the fact that the team has basically zero playoff experience, especially at their key positions. But encouraging, the second half, very encouraging for the Ravens. Texans fan, I think they probably win the AFC South next year, so you're just excited.
If you're a Texans fan, at the end of the day, you don't care that much about the pre-snap penalties. You knew what was going to happen. You may have listened to weirdos like me and say, oh, well, maybe we've got a fighting chance against the Ravens. You were probably kind of aware this was the inevitable result. You were not going to make it past the Chiefs, even if you did luck out and get past the Ravens or the Bills. And you certainly weren't going to go beat up on the 49ers. But very promising season for the Texans. They have the best quarterback in the division. They have one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football, I think. Certainly will be after year 2 in that offensive system once they get CJ a little bit more help. And all in all, they stand to compete with the top dogs in the AFC if they just add a few more pieces over the offseason. Tampa Bay, Detroit. The Cinderella story of Baker Mayfield comes to an end. Clock hit midnight. Certain members of the Lions secondary actually did watch a little bit of film and then immediately flipped the ball back to Baker Mayfield. And really, after that play, I kind of figured how this game was going to go. The Buccaneers fought back. They made it competitive at points. But the Lions are more fired up. They had the crowd behind them. They were running a better game plan, a tighter ship. Jared Goff did not put the ball in places it didn't need to be. And when push comes to shove, that Lions offense can get methodical with their running backs. They can wind time off the clock, and if you oversell to try and stop the short stuff, they will gouge you on the ground, as Jahmyr Gibbs did. The better offense won. The better defense probably didn't win, but still, Lions made a lot of plays. Tristan Wirfs did not match up amazingly well with Hutch. They kept Hutch moving around, but he still generated pressures on Wirfs, still generated pressures on that right side of the Buccaneers offensive line. He is one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. They were able to get sacks with their cornerbacks. Not many other teams can do that, generate pressure consistently from the secondary. And for all the talk we did about Mike Evans destroying them, and he did have 150 yards, I think I nailed that one on the head, but they did what they needed to. They held up in man long enough to force those sacks. Will they be able to do that next week? Who knows? But you cannot deny this Lions offense is legit.
I mean, the team, it's a very good team, and I understand why Lions fans are excited. They're going to their first conference championship, or second conference championship, since conference championships ever became a thing in 1970 when the league merged. With that being said, I think you leave this game with close to zero confidence in the Lions' ability to beat the 49ers, because as we alluded to in our predictions, their man defense is horrific. Mike Evans went, I want to say 146 and a touchdown, 150, somewhere around there. 8 catches, was torching the Lions secondary. Cade Otton went for, I think, around 6 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown. Chris Godwin, other receivers on the Bucs, they were having no problem moving up and down the field on the Lions. Baker Mayfield went for 340 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I think I even saw Russell Gage sneak off the sideline and catch a pass.
The Lions secondary, them and man defense, I don't know why they run it so much. It is hard to watch. Now, what I will say about the Lions offense is their offensive line, very good, now dealing with some injuries. Their passing attack, very good when Jared Goff isn't pressured. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, was worth the draft capital to all the people out there who said he wasn't worth the pick. They are dynamic. So they have a very good offense, but at the end of the day, when you see how the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans did your secondary, you lose all confidence in your ability to beat the 49ers next week because you'll have to go against Brandon Ayuk. You have to go against George Kittle. If Cade Otton's going for 65 and a touchdown, there's a very good chance George Kittle goes for 165 and a touchdown. And people say, oh, the 49ers without Deebo Samuel. Well,
he's playing next week according to him.
According to him, but even if he's banged up, I guarantee the game plan's probably not going to be all that centered around him. He's probably going to maybe have some more limited touches than he typically would if fully healthy. And if Mike Evans and Cade Otton did what they did to the Lions secondary, Brandon Ayuk, McCaffrey out of the backfield, and Kittle are going to do the exact same thing. And the 49ers have a better defense, as solid as the Bucs defense is, than the Bucs defense is.
Here's how the Lions can make it a game, and I'm sure I'll talk more about this in my predictions video. The Lions offense and the 49ers offense are not all that different. I think the Lions have the better offensive line. Now, the injuries throw some doubt onto that. They're certainly very comparable, both high end. Number 1 receiver, slight edge to the Lions. Tight end, slight edge to the 49ers, but it's not as big of an edge as we would have thought going into this game. Laporta looks healthy and looks good. Running back, Christian McCaffrey by himself is better than Gibbs or Montgomery. You put those two together behind that slightly superior offensive line, it's not that much of a difference. And then once you get into the depth of wide receivers, your wide receiver 2, how much does that really matter? An awful lot if you're the 49ers. They know how to use their pieces. They're better coached, certainly. Kyle Shanahan's better than Ben Johnson, no matter how many head coaching interviews he does this week. But offensively, there's not some disparity here. These two teams could go back and forth through the air, if not for the fact the 49ers defense is much better. Having said that, did not look that good against Green Bay. Aside from some horrible interceptions, Jordan Love was cooking them. I don't think there's that big of a difference between Jared Goff and Jordan Love, and I think throwing in a dry environment will make a big difference compared to throwing in the rain. I don't think the 49ers are going to roll over the Lions. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game.
Well, we'll get into our predictions more later this week. We don't want to spill the beans too much about how we feel. Do you want to talk about the Packers first, or do you want me to do it?
Hey, you can die about the Packers if you want. I don't care very much about Jordan Love.
When it comes to the Packers-49ers game, there's a lot of 49ers fans out there who are upset about how people are treating Brock Purdy's performance because they feel like Jordan Love is getting more love, even though the fact he threw 2 interceptions and maybe had the worst box score compared to Purdy. And I think everyone who is honest about Brock Purdy, anyone who is not a stan of him, anyone that is not a hater, a supreme hater of him, knows he's just a very solid quarterback that makes do with all of the high-end talent he has around him. He's not in the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson category, but he's also not a bottom 15 quarterback in the NFL. And this game affirmed that. In the biggest moment, he clutched up and did what he needed to do. He got the job done. And when you're upset because on the other side of the field, or on the other side of the coin, Jordan Love is getting a lot of praise for his performance, I think if you watch that game, the eye test, how the game played out, it is clear Jordan Love is a more talented player than Brock Purdy, and it is not a shocker that the youngest team in the NFL, with basically no playoff experience outside of the head coach, did not clutch up at the end of the game versus a team that's been there before, has the most talented roster in the NFL. Everyone's been saying it all season long. You're the fan base that voted everyone into the Pro Bowl. So the fact that you're upset by that narrative, I don't really get it. And it was a great game for the Packers fan base because I think it demonstrates they have a bright future with all those receiver weapons they have, the tight ends. Maybe they need to find a new running back at some point with Aaron Jones aging, but he also, I think, averaged 6 yards a carry.
Yeah, let's be blunt about this right here. In a vacuum this season, Jordan Love was not as good as Brock Purdy. In that playoff game, I think Jordan Love did outperform him. Brock Purdy should have thrown interceptions. The fact that he didn't is more so a statement to how wet that ball was and the defense couldn't catch it. Granted, that Jordan Love pick, dear God, shades of Brett Favre. I know everyone's already done the side-by-side video comparison, but that really was my first thought when I saw that. Like, man, that looks familiar. They got another one, folks. Maybe Jordan Love will be able to carry on the Packers quarterback tradition. Who knows? I know he's going to be able to carry on the tradition of playoff choking. I don't concern myself all that much with the single game shaping narrative debates. Even if Patrick Mahomes had lost to Josh Allen somehow, I would not have been pushing Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes narratives until he got the Super Bowl. But a single 2 games matter there. But at the end of the day, say what you want about Love, you still sold your Super Bowl window to draft him. Do we want to get into that on the podcast, or are you not brave enough to?
They did not sell their Super Bowl window
to
draft.
They went to the NFC Championship game the very next year, the year after, lost by 1 score to a 49ers team who should have beat the Rams. They could have drafted a bunch of other players who actually would have done something in those games instead of a quarterback who literally did not play a snap the first year and did almost nothing the second year.
So let me ask you something. When you were kind of spinning this narrative about him being the wrong pick because it shut down their Super Bowl window, presumably because it also pissed off Aaron Rodgers, are you assuming that the relationship between Rodgers and management was not really an owner, would not have deteriorated if they never drafted Love?
I don't care about Aaron Rodgers. In terms of this, I'm saying let's just assume that he doesn't get run off in 3 years. Let's just assume I'm only talking about that 2-year window. I think it would have been safe to say that Rodgers was not going to retire or go somewhere else in those 2 years. Like, it's kind of ridiculous to say he would have done that, frankly.
Well, it felt like the relationship between Rodgers and the front office was has been deteriorating for a number of years. It didn't just happen over the last offseason and the offseason before that.
I don't care if Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay or not. He should have gone at some point. They should have replaced him. But you were worrying about that replacement when you were still in a position to compete for Super Bowls, which is a stupid thing to do.
Well, I think it is a stupid criticism of an organization that had Brett Favre forever, then had Aaron Rodgers forever. They were always competing for Super Bowls.
And only won one with each of those two quarterbacks because they never properly capitalized on them, like they just did now by drafting Jordan Love instead of someone who could have actually helped them.
But now they have another long Super Bowl window, so maybe they'll get another Super Bowl.
Jordan Love doesn't open your Super Bowl window unless he improves. What we saw his first season as a starter, year 4 in the NFL.
The second half of this,
Jordan Love is not a rookie. I'd like to get that out there too. People treat him like, oh, look, he's so young, first season as a starter. If you spend 4 years in the NFL, I would sure hope you know how to run the offense you're in, which had the same coach the entire time.
I don't think anyone's treating him, or anyone intelligent isn't treating him as a rookie. I think when people say it's only his first year as a starter in the NFL, which means something, because at the end of the day, you're only going to get better with every repetition any time you're playing quarterback. It's not like he's going to get worse going out there and playing more games. So
defenses are going to have more film of him, and I don't think there's going to be such a big jump between year 1, year 2, or year 2 and year 3 with him as there are to young quarterbacks who are actually learning the ways of the NFL. Having more film on you is not a beneficial thing.
Well, the NFC North is setting up to be potentially the most exciting division in the NFC next year. I mean, with the Packers now, with all the young talent they have on offense, the Lions, they're still going to be there unless injury, knock on wood, an injury happens. The Vikings, if Kirk Cousins is able to come back healthy, they'll be right back in the thick of things. The Bears, they'll probably have Caleb Williams, so they'll be exciting.
I hope they have Justin Fields. I really do. That makes me very
Division's
happy.
going to be exciting next year.
It is rather funny, since we're going to talk about divisions for a second before we get into the final bit of this. I love how the NFC East is just a seesaw, that every 2 years it's the best division in football. Got 2-3 teams which compete for the Super Bowl, which was last year with the Cowboys, Eagles, Giants. And then now it's about to be the NFC least again because the Giants, still bad. Commanders, they're picking top 3, top 2. The Cowboys and Eagles are both falling apart. It's just going back and forth. Someone with 9 wins is going to win that division next year. They're going to be the NFC South next season, and I can't wait for it.
And then we're going to see Daniel Jones getting his contract re-upped for year 3.
Yes. I can't wait. $40 more million. Yes. I know you're excited.
I'm smiling through the pain.
Anyway, those were our thoughts on the divisional round. If you enjoyed, if you didn't enjoy, be sure to like, comment, share the video. If you didn't enjoy, you probably have some friends you don't like. Hey, make them sit down and watch us. Man, look at these two guys. I love talking to them. In reality, you're secretly wasting their time. If you did enjoy, hey, you're still here. But thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.